What if I told you that fatigue, brain fog, bloating, and even skin issues could be caused by parasites? Sounds crazy, right? But the truth is, parasites are way more common than you think, and they could be wreaking havoc on your health and your hormones without you even knowing it. Today, I'm sitting down with Kim Rogers, founder of Rogerhood Apothecary, to uncover how parasites impact your body, your hormones, and the symptoms you might be ignoring, and what you can actually do about them. You do not want to miss this episode. But first, if you're new here, hi, I'm Jen Winkler, a functional health and hormone coach, and I help women balance hormones, regulate blood sugar, and optimize their metabolism without any dogma or one size fits all approach. Your health should work for you, not against you. I started my health journey struggling with epilepsy, PCOS, insulin resistance, and weight issues. Through a ketogenic, carnivore, and hormone focused nutrition, I reversed my PCOS, lost 80 pounds, balanced my blood sugar, and even reduced my epilepsy meds by 85%. Now I love and have a passion to help women do the same. On this channel, you'll find hormone hacks, fasting tips, blood sugar strategies, cycle charting guidance, and real no BS education to help you feel your best. All right, let's get into this fascinating interview with Kim Rogers. You are going to love this one. Welcome, everybody. We're so excited to have you here on the channel. Today, we have Kim Rogers, founder of Rogerhood Apothecary, and I'm going to let her introduce herself because I can't give it justice. So go ahead, Kim, introduce yourself.
Hi, Jen. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Thanks. My name is Kim Rogers, and I was crowned the Worm Queen in 2021 from TikTok. I went viral in 21 over parasite cleansing, and it just kind of came naturally to me because I come from medicine. So I come from Western medicine. I was in it since 2004, and my own personal health is actually what kind of took me away from my professional life in medicine. And I've always loved the human body. And I just think that there's so many cool things that we just don't even know and we haven't been taught. So when I went viral on TikTok, my video that I talked about my own parasite cleanse with another company went a million viewers in 2 hours, which is kind of wild. So it shut my TikTok down because I swear every single person commented and liked it while it was going on. So I saw this niche and it started because in 2019, I was circling the drain. I was not doing well at all. I was very ill. And I'll show you guys a picture of what I looked like because it was pretty devastating. I look completely different than I look now. But I found out because I had gone to, so this is what I looked like.
Wow, that is you? I've never
Yeah.
seen your picture before.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Okay. So what was happening there? Like what illnesses and things were you suffering with back then?
Just in case we want to smile one. So I had stage 4 endometriosis and beginning stages of cervical cancer, and I had hysterectomy when I was 29. And I had 13 surgeries. So I've had 13 surgeries because of endometriosis and adenomyosis, which my adenomyosis is a scar tissue disease because of my endometriosis and
Yes.
all the surgeries. So in 2019, I had my last surgery and it wasn't successful, and I couldn't have any more. So my husband and I decided to leave our real life, which I ran 25 healthcare colleges. I wrote books. I've been in this field. I was a professor. I have 2 healthcare degrees. So I really have been in the world of medicine, and I couldn't get anyone to help me. So in 2019, we decided to sell our whole house, our life. He quit his job to be my caretaker, and we owned a piece of property out in Hoodsport. That's where Mrs. Rogers Hood comes from.
Okay.
And so we decided to build our own log home with our bare hands. So we sold everything. We moved out there into a travel trailer to build our home. But I knew that my health was declining so fast that I didn't want to leave my husband with a mortgage and debt. And we all know how expensive it is to be chronically ill. It's not cheap. And I had racked up some debt for us. So we really wanted to get out there. I really did not want to leave my husband with debt if something happened to me. He made more money here, but I always made more money. So I was like, I don't want to do that to him. So we got out there and my health just really kept taking a turn for the worst. And I got that ill. became extremely swollen and I didn't go poop for a month. And so when that happened, I reached out to my doctor and she said, take some psyllium husk. And that's all she said to me. And I was like, oh, okay. So I've just now been medically abandoned and I need to figure it all out on my own. No problem. I do it for other people. I'm going to dig in. I'm going to do it for myself.
Yeah.
And so I started researching. I started researching mushrooms. I started researching. That's why I pay homage to the mushroom so much because this mushroom saved my brain. I realized I was on a whole bunch of pharmaceuticals that were really Klonopin. I was on 4 grams, 4 milligrams of Klonopin for 22 years and I
That's
was having all the side effects. And so I'm like, that's it. I'm getting off of all this, but you can't do it super fast. And I didn't have anyone guiding me. And I'm like, I'm just going to do what I need to do to see really what is going on in my body. So we got through a year of it. It was really great. I had a little mini stroke because of it. We found out uh, I just wasn't at the optimal level still. Like I'm like eating a little better. I was losing a little bit of weight. I was having some weird side effects. I couldn't figure out what was going on with me. And so I'm on TikTok and was watching because I had a small account teaching people how to grow mushrooms and build a log home. And so I ended up going on this one girl's account and she's like, what do you mean that I almost unalived myself over worms? And I was like, whoa. Whoa, wait a minute. I thought I had parasites a couple of years before. My doctor said, no way. There's no possibility that you could have them. I have flares during the full moon. So it's possible that I have parasites. So I went and got the Paragard, which I don't recommend. It ripped my guts up, but I went and got the Paragard, and in 3 days, the pains that I was having in my abdomen gone. In the toilet, I saw flukes, roundworm, and pinworms,
what? Like not
and
even having to dig. You just saw them in there.
just floating,
Wow.
just on the surface. I'm not a digger, and I used
I'm
to
not a
not be.
digger either.
Now I'm a looker and a flusher.
Okay. Yeah. That's where I'm at.
I don't even need to dig. Like I saw it, I know what was happening. And then immediately I went into my husband. I was like, oh my gosh, I think I have worms. And I think that's what's wrong with me. And he's like, we don't have worms. So he was in the denial state. So I did a few rounds. I did like a few days. I did about 30 days before I actually went viral. But within 3 days, I knew I didn't want to share it yet. I just was like, okay. And I only had like 10,000 followers on my account. So it wasn't like, oh, if I share it, that's going to go viral.
Right, right. Yeah. That-
So on July 18th, I shared it. I did a 60-second, very off the cuff. I have a very dry medical personality. And I was like, yeah, so I've been in the medical field for over 18 years and I've never dewormed myself until now.
Yeah, because people don't think about it in the US,
No,
right?
they
Like they
don't.
think that everything is clean. And this was going to be one of my questions later on, but I think I'm just going to jump to it. It's like
Yeah,
a lot of people think that parasites are only an issue in third world countries, India,
right.
Africa, whatever it is, right? How common have you found it that parasitic infections are in the US? You know, and my thought was when I was talking to my husband about this, when we initially found you, I said, well, a lot of our produce comes from these other
Yes.
countries, from Mexico, from Pakistan, from India.
And they
So,
deworm.
and they deworm, it's like over the counter there, right? So how common do you think it is here in the US then?
So statistically, the CDC, which we all take that for a grain of salt, but the CDC says 60 million people are documented in the United States that have parasites. But the problem is that our labs don't test it very well. They're not accurate. I had to send my stool test to Mexico. So they're not accurate here. So that's 60 million documented, not people that get them sent to Mexico. So I'm not even in that 60 million. But I say, because I run a company that deworms people, that 95% have parasites, and it's really easy to catch. I used to eat sushi 2 to 3 times a week. I had 3 dogs that also had parasites, so I had the same roundworm as my dog.
Mm.
And I had 2 cats, which I don't have toxo, but cats, that's the cat parasite. And so I would say that just between jumping in a river or a lake, my water was contaminated and so is Seattle's. And I live in Seattle now. I live downtown Seattle and I've tested the water here and it has nematodes in it. So does the water in Hoodsport, Washington, which is where I lived. I still have a house there, but all of our stuff has filters now, but it is so easy to contract them from the water. It's common knowledge for most people, but it's just not something we want to think about. That our water that we use all day to brush our teeth, shower in, I don't drink tap water. I don't do ice in my water. It has to be bottled because I know what's in our water now, and it's like
Yeah.
I'm not willing to go through that again. But that is, I feel, the number one way to catch a parasite is pets and water.
So I was on that boat of like the chances of parasite minimal. I'll run GI maps for my clients at times when, to try and figure. And I don't know if you've seen a GI map, but there's a little section of parasites, but I think it tests like five of them, and
Right.
there's like what, thousands? I don't know how many,
Yes,
like
there's thousands.
there's thousands.
Yes.
But last year, I had a GI map for a client. I focus more PCOS, PMS, hormonal imbalance. So adenomyosis, I've had clients with those too. So this is very fascinating to me, your story, because I want to help them get to that point where you've reached with healing. But anyways, one of them who her doctor wasn't sure if she had PCOS or not, we did a GI map. She had massive dysbiosis and had parasites too
Wow.
that actually showed up on GI Map, which is, I didn't know about your stuff yet. So I put her on some other protocols and she's getting there, but she's not quite there yet.
Yeah.
But hers was because she's a camper and it made sense. I'm like, you go
Mhm.
camping all the time. She's like, well, I just use the river water. And I'm like, well, there you go. So, but yeah, it was something like that. She's like, I'm not that sanitary out there, I'll be honest. And I'm like, okay, that's where you got it. But we didn't know
Sure for
better.
crypto. Crypto. I had cryptosporidium parvium, which is why I looked like that because the crypto shuts your organs down.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Crypto's
so
really
I'll
bad.
follow up with that. Hers was Giardia, the one that showed
Oh
up.
yeah, they're all in the same family. Giardia, my husband had D. fragilis and I had crypto, but they're all a parasite
Yeah.
that will go in and wreak havoc on your reproductive. And if she's drinking fresh, not medical advice, if she's drinking out of the river, she has schistomiasin, 100%,
Yeah.
man.
I
It's
don't think she was
coating
drinking,
inside.
but she
What?
was like showering and cleaning her stuff with it, but she didn't like directly drink the water from the
I
river.
mean, she did if
But
she
still, but
showered.
it's still gonna, it doesn't take much.
I mean, I had one in my eye just from washing my hands and putting my contacts in, because the water's so contaminated. Nematodes aren't tested in our country. And
Really?
parasites.org, they send it to Arizona and then they send it to Mexico. But he tested our water and our stool, and he does a bunch of other levels of things. And it's crazy because, and I share this a lot with people about my Lyme because I have Lyme and I've had chronic Lyme. I've had it for over 30 years. And
Hmm.
I just caught it in 23. I got it. I'm I'm friends with everyone. So I'm like, hey, can I have you send me a vibrant test? Like, I want to see if I have Lyme. Like, not that anything that I'm doing differently with parasites and mold is with Lyme. I'm treating it all very similar, doing the H-bot and sauna, and I do cold plunge. I run, I move my lymphatic as much as possible. But the thing is that I just wanted to know if that was what was going on. And so in 23, in December, I found out that I had chronic Lyme and I only tested for two bands of Lyme,
Hmm.
two Borrelia bands. Well, I went and got TPE this year and I wanted to get tested again. I have 22 bands of Lyme. I
Oh
put
my
them
God.
all in remission and I have Babesia and I did not test for Babesia 2 years ago. I didn't test positive for that. I tested for it and it came back negative. So it just really shows you how stealthy all of these environmental toxins are in our body. I literally came back with things that were not even something I would even know that I had wrong with me from my first Vibrant. I love Vibrant. I think that they're pretty spot on for a lot of things, but it just shows how much can be missed in our testing. And because I used to work in Western medicine and I trained lab techs, I know what it looks like in the lab. And I think we put way too much stock in the idea that there's someone sitting behind that microscope going, oh, yeah, look at this, look at this. They're not doing that. It's unfortunate. They get 3 minutes on a parasite test from the stool. And if they don't see anything, they just pass it off as a negative. But there's a fine print on Western medicine's labs that says this is not in lieu of a parasitic infection. And in fact, I sent my stool to LabCorp, the same stool I sent to parasites.org. And parasites.org came back and told me that I had roundworm and crypto, and LabCorp said I had nothing.
Wow. I'm not surprised at that, honestly. I
Me
really am
either.
not because my husband has colitis. He's had it for, I don't know, 15 years or something. Went into remission, but then had like a massive flare up and we still don't know the cause of it. So that was another reason. I mean, he's better now, but I was like, well, we don't want the flare up to come back. But when he went
Right.
to his GI doctor, he was down to 122 pounds and they did a stool test and it was clean. There was nothing. And I was like just learning about GI maps back then. And I said, hey, let's do a GI map. Let's see. And he started working with a practitioner who said the same. He came up with two types of C. diff, candida, massive dysbiosis, calprotectin through the roof, like anything that could be bad on there. It didn't show up parasites, but like I said, GI map doesn't, it's not thorough.
Yeah.
But just the fact, the point of the conventional stool test showed everything's fine. Let's do another colonoscopy. But this functional grade PCR quantitative test was like, hey, you've got a ton wrong. And when we address
Right.
that at root cause, it's like he's better than ever. Like, still
Yeah.
some things, I feel like there might be mold or parasites, but we're getting there, like step by step, like your journey as
Yeah.
you go.
I mean, and
So,
that's the thing is they really are all treated very similarly. So if you don't know even where to start, and I think that that's what's made me so viral, is it's like, listen, I didn't know where to start. Here I'm letting them chop on me like 13 surgeries, like I every 2 years since I was in my 20s, and I'm 46 years old. We would prepare every 2 years for me to have a surgery. And they're very hard on your body. And my life changed because I was a snowboarder and I was a roller derby girl. Like I was athletic and I had to, okay, I could be athletic for a year. And then the second half of the year, I'm not going to be able to do my life because, and I worked, like I ran colleges and I wrote. And so I wrote a lot because when you're down from a surgery, I'm like, I got nothing else to do. So, but if you can just even start with something somewhere, it's such a good idea. And for me, it peeled that parasite onion, it pulled
yeah.
that layer off. And I found out we were living in mold, like Aspergillus niger, 8.5 out of 10, very ill, lost half my hair, my eyes swelled shut. I'm on video. I just started my business. We were a year into the business and I'm like so sick again. And I'm all, what's going on with me? Well, I pulled all the parasites away. So then the mold flourished in my body.
There you go.
Wormwood suppresses when you're living in mold. So if you all of a sudden you stop a parasite cleanse and you start getting sicker, you should go test your environment. And I'm finding that we're all in this medical awakening. It's beautiful. I'm loving watching everybody like really take interest in their bodies and the environment. And that's where I feel like I want to talk to most people about this environmental toxin issue because that's really what all of this is. It's parasites or environment. Lyme is environment. I have encephalitis, which I have swelling in my brain because I have strep. That's an environmental toxin.
Mhm.
But I had to peel away the parasite layer for me to get, oh, I'm living in mold. Oh, my mom has mold. Okay, I lived in mold as a child. All right, so it's all kind of making sense when I'm putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And then I'm thinking, oh, well, maybe I have Lyme because these are all co-infections.
Mhm.
And so it all kind of like, not everyone's going to have this journey, but a lot of us that are chronically ill that have relied so heavily on Western medicine have this journey, you
Yeah.
know?
So, yeah, I mean that's just so much to like digest in general as well. So being in the low carb, ketogenic, carnivore space, right? Like I don't know what I consider myself anymore. I just eat according to what works for me. But with my clients, I do one of those three approaches according to, what their situation is. But I think when we get in this space, whatever your health space is,
Mhm.
eventually we get to the part where we start hearing about mold, about Lyme, and all those things. And it becomes overwhelming because
Yes.
we're like, oh my gosh, the renovation that might happen with mold and all that stuff, and they just don't want to touch it. But what I
Right.
hear you saying is just start somewhere simple, such as a parasite cleanse. And when you stop, if you stop it, when you stop it, it'll give you somewhat of an idea of is there a mold issue or not. And then you just take it step by step from there,
Right.
right?
Yeah, and we talk about this. We actually say to do 2 or 3 Parafy kits back to back with a 7-day break. So, like 90 days, you do. And then when you pause it, you really have gotten your body into somewhat of a homeostasis level. And if you're feeling good, like my mom feels so good on the kit, and we've sold like over 150,000 kits. So, we're pretty out there when it comes to like seeing how many people respond to our kit. When you start to pull the layers off, you will realize that this is just one layer, but you have enough energy now to kind of tackle these other layers. And
Mhm.
so you can do more things. I didn't just make it a parasite cleanse, it's a candida cleanse, it's a heavy metal cleanse. It removes inflammation because the herbs that I chose, it helps with bad bacteria and viruses. I chose usnea, which is Mother Nature's doxycycline. It's why I do so well on it because I have Lyme. And so it helps kind of combat the Lyme for me. It has wormwood, so it is going to suppress that mold feel if you are living in mold. But there's so many cool options now. Got Mold is a test that you can put in your house that tests the air, and you can see what levels of mold you have in your house. You should
Yeah,
do that regularly. You can test your water. You should do that regularly. Those two environmental toxins, if there is a problem, they're going to wreak havoc on your gut. They're going to cause you to have more SIBO issues. And so I feel like when people can just do a simple 30-day cleanse, it's why I made it so easy. 3 tinctures and a binder. We give you instructions. We give you a
yeah,
fast track guide. Like it's so simple because people just don't know where to start. They really don't. I didn't know where to start with my health. I'm not just going to take psyllium husk. Like it's more than just that, doctor.
yeah, yeah. Oh my
Something's
gosh, that's
keeping me
crazy.
from pooping. I didn't poop for a month. I mean,
And
that's
for
something.
some, fiber does
Um,
the opposite. Like,
yeah,
fiber's not always a solution, and there's different types of fiber. Like, I've had clients where they add in the fiber and they're like, oh my gosh, it's been like 4 or 5 days. I'm like, all right, then lower the fiber. It's just one of those
yeah.
trial and error things. But the fact that so many doctors and practitioners will jump to the fiber game, oh, you're not pooping, you need more fiber. But fiber bulks. So if you're
Right.
not pooping, like, I feel like you don't need more bulk, right?
And you're not moving. Right.
Right.
Like 'cause I was very sedentary. I was sitting in a chair. I was very ill. So I wasn't moving. So feeding me
Yeah,
full of psyllium husk would just give me a headache and probably bloat me even more. I'm
yeah,
not really like utilizing it the same way someone who was in a healthier state would be using it. So
100%. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, awesome. We've got into a lot of stuff, but we haven't gotten to the basic part of it. So,
Mhm.
symptoms, diagnosis, things like that. You talked a little bit about parasite.com or .org. I think
Parasites.org. Yeah,
parasites.org.
they do stool test and water test, and they
Okay.
do like different E. coli tests. They do quite a few different types of tests, and they send them to Arizona, and then they send them to Mexico if they need further information.
So, what are some of the common symptoms of parasitic infections? Like, how would somebody know this is what I need to test for?
So the first thing is you don't really have to test to take a Parafy kit, so that's kind of nice. That's just something that we just are out there selling it for people to kind of get started somewhere. But some of the symptoms are grinding of the teeth and bloating after eating. I mean, you could drink water and still bloat, and if you could eat a salad and you're still bloating, then you've got something going on that you need to look at that could be a parasite. Drooling at night, which I thought was kind of
Really?
crazy because I'm a drooler. And I mean, my whole pillow would be wet.
Oh,
And
fascinating.
so I really do kind of now think like as I drool a little, I'm like, oh, it's time to cleanse. Hold on. I'm
All
like, just a
right.
moment. Um, craving salt. And I learned that one recently too, because they're stealing our nutrients and we're struggling with balancing our electrolytes. They're actually causing us to crave salt. And not a huge sweet craver, which is also a symptom. I am a huge salt craver.
I am
And I
too.
would look back and I would be like, oh my gosh, okay. Skin issues, because I'll be honest, that's really what made me push so hard to figure out more of what was going on with me is I have really great skin. I've always had great skin, but for a period where I was had the biggest infection going on, my face, I would get these sores. They weren't even like they were sores. And then one
Mm.
time during the full moon, I was popping something and it moved and it freaked me out. And so I really started getting into like, no way that's a parasite. Like, no way that was a worm. No. Well,
Out of your face?
yeah, it was awful.
So like
I,
it's not
what?
just out of your poop. It's like it
Right.
can come out from any orifice.
Yes. But the way I created the Parafy cake, I really took that into account, my experiences that I had. And that's why I went so viral, is because they came out of my pee and they came out of my skin.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
know now why is because my pathways weren't open. And so,
Okay.
and I was using Paragard without a binder. I never knew what a binder was. I come from Western medicine. We don't bind. If you use charcoal in Western medicine, it's in the ER. I mean, we used to shove it down. I worked in the ER. So we'd shove it down people's throats that were overdosing or had alcohol poisoning.
Yeah. And that makes
Yeah.
sense, like to bind those toxins, but then you don't
Yeah.
think about applying it elsewhere.
Yeah. So, and then I found that Oregon grapefruit is a much better blend with wormwood than just wormwood, black walnut, whole clove, and garlic. Like that's so harsh when you do just that and you don't have the supplemental assistance that you still need to assist your liver. So, and you need a heavy metal detox while you're doing a parasite cleanse because they're weighted down by heavy metals. And so you
Oh,
have to release those heavy metals in order to release them, and then you can do it simultaneously. And I use cilantro. I use food to,
yeah.
that's what we use inside. Herbs or food, same thing. And so I found that like dandelion root helps protect your liver while detoxing your liver because that's your last pathway before it exits. And
Yeah.
so here I'm like, they're coming out of my skin. They came out of my ears. My best friend blew them out of her nose. Like there's so many things that go on while you're cleansing. So it's like you gotta like know that it might happen. I had
Yeah.
them come out of my feet when I did the fulvic soak. They swam out my feet and I went pretty viral over the fulvic soak. That's why we sell a fulvic soak,
Yeah.
because
Have that
they
in here.
literally swam out of my feet.
Yeah. Nothing happened when I did it or my husband. There's like little tiny things, and it's hard to tell if it's like skin flakes or, something that's come out. But even for myself, so I'm sick right now with what I caught my from my
Mhm.
kiddo, and he has a fever. So I soaked in it with Epsom salt last night,
Nice.
when I had a fever, and this morning it's better. So my fever, I still sound raspy, but I'm a little more functional
Yeah.
enough to do this episode today and actually shower. But I put my son in it too. And I mean, it's hard to tell because you're throwing like a bunch of things at it at once.
Yeah.
But I've never done fulvic before, and I did it for him, and his fever's still there, but it went down and he was more functional. So I
Nice.
love this like as another little almost just you don't need to have parasites for this, right? Like you said, like it
No.
can support so many aspects of
Yeah.
your detox system.
Yeah,
So
it's
I love
minerals that get put back in, and I know you have the cake, so you should take some
yeah.
Sustain because Sustain has usnea in it. And usnea, it's so easy. I want to show everyone how easy it is. That's it, I'm
Yeah,
done.
it's super easy. Mine's
And it's pretty good.
solid.
So Sustain has usnea, which will help pull the virus and bacteria out. So you could do Sustain and Metal Flush because Metal Flush is going to protect your liver and support your liver while whatever you're trying to, remove toxin wise, virus wise. But Sustain will help process it. And then anytime you do a fulvic, we recommend doing Cinnabon or a binder. If charcoal can stop people up. And so we just recommend that any binder that you're going to do, because fulvic can cause die-offs.
Hmm.
And I didn't know that when I did it. It was terrible, man. I mean, my
Oh,
husband did it with me and I'm sitting there and my feet are soaking and I'm like, nothing's happening. I'm like, this is kind of meh, meh. And I videoed that. I'm like, ugh, like I've been sitting in this for like 5 minutes, I'm all wanting it now.
yeah.
And nothing's happening. 10 minutes in, I'm like, okay, I feel movement. And I start videoing it. And then all of a sudden, like this little thread worm swam out of my feet and started circling in the fulvic. And then my husband, he did it after me, and I didn't tell him that something came out, and then something came out of his.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So the binder is very important for kids.
Yeah.
Can kids use the Parafy kit? And if so, what does the dosage look like for them?
Ages 3 and up. And because it's a tincture, it's readily available and you can adjust it. So we say start them at as if, 15 drops a day, the same, because I don't know what size your child is and we don't do it off of weight. But if it's too much, then go to 5 drops or 10 drops. So really you can tailor it. You could do 15 drops once a day. And it's unlike Cellcore where they're pills and it's hard to dose your child. And so we do recommend starting either slow or just once a day, see how they respond. And we have instructions 3 times a day. You do two of the tinctures 3 times a day and one of them. But if you've got really an infestation, you do all three times a day because sustain is the second tincture that you're like 2 times a day. But the thing is that because it has Oregon grapefruit and that's also an anti-parasitic herb, it can be too much. So we want you to cleanse and we want you to finish your kit, and a bad cleanse is like a bad trip. You're never going to do it again. So we don't want that for people. But we are one of the few parasite cleanses that kids can do. So ages 3 and up is what we
Okay.
recommend.
So the adults, I think, is like the 15 drops 3 times a day. So for kids, it
Yeah.
would be once a day, the 15 drops,
Mhm.
and adjust as needed according
Yeah.
to like die off reactions and stuff. Do
Yeah.
you have suggestions? Because there is a taste with it, right?
Yeah.
Do you have suggestions on how to get kids to be able to take it?
Juice, water. Same with the binder. It's cinnamon and charcoal. That's why we call it cinnamon because it's cinnamon and a binder. And you can
Yeah.
put that in applesauce.
Okay.
So we just recommend the best that you can get it into them because the herbs will just do their thing once it's in their body.
Okay. And the cinnamon binder, my kid can swallow pills, so he would just take a capsule, but
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. They're just clear. They're
okay,
black.
so they don't have to be in the capsule. Like you can put
No,
it in
they don't have.
applesauce or ice cream or
Right.
something. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
And we do make this all ourselves. We have a 10,000 square foot manufacturing facility in Arkansas. And so we do all of this ourselves. We're third party tested. We soak the herbs kind of the way that our ancestors did this back in the day. And
Yeah.
so it's kind of cool. We're organic. We're ethic. I look for all my herbs are ethical. Some are foraged. So you can't really get more organic than
Yeah.
foraged herbs. So it's kind of cool that like we're showing you guys what this should look like. This is how we should be cleansing. This is
Yeah.
really how we should look at 3 to 4 times a year, specifically because we are eating the produce that comes from Mexico, where it's been used their water, right? And their citizens are allowed to go to the pharmacy and buy anti-parasitic pills. We're
Yeah.
just not allowed to do that in our country. Other countries cleanse, like Jamaica, they use an herb called the bush once a month. It's a tea that they use. Other countries use Oregon grapefruit and usnea. They just know that this is something they need to do if they walk outside barefoot. If you ground, you should ground in a specific area. Clean that area with like diatomaceous earth. Don't let your dogs go in that area or other animals go in that area because that's where hookworm gets brought into your body and that can cause anemia. So there's really like we just have not really been educated really well on this. We've just been more in like head in the sand type of mentality, including myself. I
Yeah.
feel like when I went viral, it was really sad for me because I taught thousands of students and I literally gave this around 10 minutes a time to talk about with our students. So
Wow.
I'm guilty of it. I wrote books. There's only little parts of it about parasites in those books that I helped write. So it's really like something that even I was like, oh, yeah, no, there is no way, you know.
Totally. I'm glad you mentioned the sourcing because that was something I was going to ask. I thought I heard you say before that you guys source it, you grow it, or you find it from places if you're not growing it that are ethical. So that's really helpful because we are getting in this space of like making sure things are properly organic, glyphosate free, all those kind of
Yes.
things. So your product is definitely one people can trust. This is the one that I find so fascinating with your account. What are the most common foods to have parasites in them? And second half of that question, does diet matter when they are parasite cleansing?
So the most common food is salmon.
It's so sad because I
I
love
hate
salmon.
that. Same. I eat it 2 to 3 times a week. I eat sushi 2 to 3 times a week too. That we've had to change our whole like lifestyle now that I've seen what I've seen. So fish, and I live in Seattle and I've gone down to Pike where they throw the fish. It's a whole thing. And I was like, so could you guys tell me what fish have it? And the guy looked at me, he's like, well, all fish have parasites. It's natural, and he pulls a piece out and he shows me and he's showing me all the eggs and he's like, yeah, and he's just touching them. I'm like, okay, so my name is Worm Queen and I deworm everyone. And he's looking at me, he's like, what are you talking about?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So
So
like,
fish,
okay, salmon. What's another
yeah.
one?
Halibut and cod for fish, but pork. RFK Jr. actually has a tapeworm in his brain. The body's still there, but they were able to make it so that it stopped eating his brain, and he's talked about it on numerous occasions. So it's really a thing that you can catch tapeworms from pork, and so pigs, they're not very clean.
Right.
So and if you don't cook your meat really well, then this is a problem that you can have even with beef. So even if it's grass fed, grass finished, if you're not cooking your food, and that goes along with produce. I don't eat raw produce when I'm not at home because one, you don't know how they prepared it, you don't know how they washed it, and you don't know what water they washed it with. And coming from here, I wouldn't use any water from this area. So it's like I can't eat raw produce here because I'm sure that they washed it, but did they wash it with contaminated water? Because our water is contaminated in our country.
Yeah. So it's pretty much like anything we eat almost.
Right? Yeah.
Including the water. So I
Yes.
want people to really realize that because when they start hearing the salmon, the beef, the pork, and they're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to eat? Well, that's what this is for, what you've created, the Parafy kit, so that you can, and
Live your
correct me
life.
if I'm wrong, please, like you can still enjoy it as long as you're cleansing every certain amount of time. So do that initial one that's like 3 months long with a week in between. And then what would you say as follow-ups? How often would they do it and when?
Well, you wouldn't even have to do the 3 month one. That's if like you get into it and you're like, oh man, I love this. I love the way I feel. You can keep going with just 7 days in between. We recommend 3 to 4 times a year. So the way that we've set it up is that it's 30 days. Your main cleanse is 30 days. And then we give you around 40 days worth of product. And so you can do 5 days over the full moon in between you're waiting for the next 30 days.
Oh,
And
okay.
then if you eat questionably, you just use it as a digestive aid. And then you can cleanse. So I'll do my 30 days and then I travel and I'll take it with me and I'll start it like 5 days in between. Or if I don't feel like doing it on vacation or if I've got a lot going on, when I get home, I know I've eaten questionably and I'm going to go ahead and do a 5 to 6 day cleanse until I come back to my 30 days. And so it really is tailored to however you feel you should do it. But I fully agree with what you said. Don't live your life in fear. We literally have options now that you can utilize that you don't have to not eat the fish or not eat the sushi or, you really should cook your pork as best you can
Yeah.
because seriously, a tapeworm in the brain happens a lot. 3 out of 5 people they say have a tapeworm. I do not have a tapeworm. I'm really thankful, and I feel for anyone that does because it is very difficult to get rid of a tapeworm. They can produce 1 million eggs a day, and there's 46 uteruses in one segment of a tapeworm.
Oh gosh.
And you
How,
have to get the head. Like there's so many things with a tapeworm, and they
yeah.
literally can live in you for decades, and they can grow like 30 to 40 feet in your body for decades.
Oh my gosh. That is one thing I am obsessed with is pork, making sure it's like fully cooked. And
Yeah,
I'm not a big pork fan. Bacon, of course, but
of course.
like pork, yeah, I love my bacon.
Me too.
Um,
It's tough.
but yeah, yeah, it's so good. Pork sirloin we'll do sometimes, but my husband loves pork. I'm like, I like my beef, and
Yeah.
so, okay, that's good to know. I want to switch gears a little bit to the hormones part because I do have a lot of
Okay.
clients with hormone issues, hormone imbalance, PCOS, endo, all those kind of things. So, how do parasites impact hormone imbalance? Exactly, how does that work, especially in those type of women that I just named, PCOS, endo, adenomyosis, things like that?
Well, I also want to say this before I forget because it's right here on my mind and I love talking about mushrooms. And I don't know if you know about maitake mushrooms and how much they help with PCOS.
I don't.
Okay. So maitake mushrooms, taken at 5 grams a day, and they're functional mushrooms, will actually assist with regulating the blood sugar, and they are a huge component if you're trying to heal PCOS.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm adding that to my toolbox. So 5 grams a day, and it
Yes.
assists with the blood sugar regulation.
Yes, and I also recommend turkey tail, which is what I did. I treated my endometriosis like the big C, and because I couldn't get it cut out anymore. And so I went and I found out that turkey tail helps break down tumors and scar tissue. And if you take that 5 grams a day, you will help break it down. Oncologists actually give it to patients that are on chemo to assist with it. So turkey tail, 5 grams a day. Maitake, 5 grams a day. Lion's mane, five
I
grams a
love
day, will
lion's mane.
help with your brain. And I was going into the dementia state now knowing that I had mold. That is actually Alzheimer's 3, that they're going to have that on the books for mold, which, the books means insurance. So Alzheimer's 3 is what they're saying that mold is. And I healed from it because I take lion's mane. So the two biggest things that changed my health was maitake and turkey tail.
Wow. That's not in your store, right? In your
Not yet,
apothecary? Not
not
yet.
yet.
It's coming.
Coming. It's coming.
Okay. I will hold off
Um,
then. I was going to say
we
if
have
you
a,
have like
well,
any
no,
good
I really do recommend starting it as soon as possible.
Okay.
Pills, mine won't be 5 grams. It'll be a supplement level, but I'm going to have a lymph kit, LYMF,
Yeah.
that assists with lymphatic drainage and Lyme.
Oh,
And I found that the more I moved my lymphatic system, the more my Lyme decreased and my symptoms went down.
yeah.
And so one of my tinctures is called Lymph LYMF, and that one will have lion's mane in it, and then no, Holy Skull will have lion's mane, and lymph will have turkey tail.
Okay.
So I'm adding them into tinctures.
I
Yeah,
love it. Do you
I'm
have
so
like,
excited.
yeah, I like the tinctures too because of exactly what you said. We can dose up and down
Yeah.
easily. So are there other brands for now you recommend for PCOS? Or I don't know if you feel comfortable recommending brands, or how do
Oh
we
yeah.
know what source? You know what I mean?
So if you're wanting to buy like a lot, I like Fresh Cap. They're the fruiting body of the mushroom. The difference is the mycelium is like the soil of the mushroom, and then you have the fruiting body, which is the mushroom. And
Okay.
so I like the fruiting body. Some people grind it all up and put it in, and if that's all you can get, that's better than nothing. But I like that, and I also like making them myself. And so you can buy those in bulk through bulk supplement on
Mm.
Amazon. They're really
Yeah.
great. And you can make your own capsules, or you can just put them in a smoothie, the
Oh,
powders. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. They dehydrate them, grind them down, and sell them.
Great.
So,
Oh, that's an easy
yeah, you
source.
can
Okay,
just type
awesome.
in turkey tail powder and something will
Yeah.
pop up, or maitake, and it's Maitake. That's the easiest way to find it, but that's going to be a game changer in life for PCOS.
Awesome. I love that. I currently use a metabolic approach if it's an insulin resistance PCOS, because obviously there's not, most of
Right.
them are insulin resistance, but not all of them. And I have had a couple clients where it was more like adrenal or the one that was parasites that we already discussed. So yeah, that's where so I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
But even if
Another,
they're not insulin resistant, maitake is just something that they should take the rest of their life.
okay.
And I come from endocrine. I was a licensed medical specialist since 2004. And so endocrine and neurology were my specialties. And
Oh,
I saw a lot of PCOS that we put on metformin. So I saw the way that Western medicine treats them. And then I kind of like learned a lot for my own health. And I've been in remission from endometriosis for 3 years. I haven't had a surgery since 2019. So that's almost 4 years, actually.
congratulations. That's
Yeah,
incredible.
thanks.
I already
It's,
know a few people I'm going to be sending this to who constantly ask for help. And I'm like, okay, there's a recording coming for you. You're going to
yeah.
see. Because I knew that was part of your story.
I took it all in when I created it. I thought of every ailment that I had that was going on with my body, and I learned the frequency of that ailment.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so
Sorry, it's
that's
just like
no,
I
you're
don't talk
totally
about my
fine. I'm
endo
glad
very
you
much
mentioned.
because it's like the fact that I could do that and use red light and use castor oil and be able to find the herbs that can really help me. I don't have children. My husband and I don't have kids. And it's so like this was my mission to make sure that someone didn't need to have a hysterectomy unnecessarily. And if there was a way to balance out the hormones and the pain that's caused from endometriosis is debilitating, and we're not believed. And it's so disheartening that we're gaslit out there and that a simple test like my Lyme test or just this simple kit, like literally 30 days, and you can really see the difference in the inflammation and how you feel. And, if you do get pains like you had to stop because of your stomach, well, something else is going on because these are just herbs.
Yeah,
These are mimicking the big pharma meds.
yeah.
And that's what this mushroom is. They literally stole the DNA structure of Klonopin from the Amanita mushroom because you can't patent a plant, but you can patent a synthetic medication. And a huge thing, and I found with my endometriosis was that I can't take synthetic medications. My body doesn't process it. It creates a glue. It doesn't work right. The herbs, from what I've done, I'm so good on herbs, but I'm not good on big pharma, and that's the problem that we're so inundated with it.
I mean, it makes sense to me. Why we shouldn't, our bodies are like, what is this foreign? I have
Yes.
enough of the foreign stuff inside of my body. Don't give me more, you know? Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate the vulnerability and being able to share your journey. So, circling back a little with the hormone part, do you know any symptoms besides being diagnosed with endo PCOS or I don't know, that would be like, hey, maybe I should take this parasite cleansing route?
Well, I think everyone should do it. I
Yeah.
mean, symptoms are
Of
not
course.
symptoms, because we are exposed every day and because our toxic bucket in our bodies are overloaded and we need to give it a little bit of a break. And so I tried when I made this kit to really identify the major organs that we're overusing. And
Hmm.
so I feel like just to get a good reset, that's what I really do think we all kind of need in society because we're so overloaded with environmental toxins that we're gaslit saying they're not real. But I do think that people that have bloating, IBS, IBD, because our gut really is our brain. And so you get a high level of anxiety, and it's specific because our gut is so dysregulated. However, they're not just in our gut, they're in our blood, our tissue, and our muscle. And so when you have something like anemia, you're going to take iron, but you're not really taking the iron. They're taking the iron. Hookworm's taking the iron. It's a thin, thin worm that lays on the side of your vein. and just absorbs all of your iron. So you're just going to keep giving it more iron. That's really from what I've seen. And there's a lot of studies that are out there showing other areas like down in the south, they're a little slower mentality because hookworm is a higher percentage down there, and so they're not getting as much iron, and so they're not connecting as much, right? So
Wow.
iron deficiencies, you have major anxiety because they hold trauma. Movement during the full moon, that's a big one. If you have your flares during the full moon every single month, you have a parasite. It's
Yeah.
just
I meant to
common.
ask you about that part because a lot of
Yeah.
people talk about that. Like they do it during the full moon, the week of
Yep.
the full moon, the cleanse. And if you don't mind explaining that for a little bit, like
Sure.
what is the core? Because it's not woo-woo, there is science with it.
Right.
What's the connection with why are parasites more active during the week of the full moon?
So there's, this will take me a couple minutes. It's a
That's fine.
really great though. So there's two sides to this. Let's go over the French folklore. They say to start the parasite cleanse 3 days prior to the full moon because that's when they start to dislodge themselves. And the French eat a lot of snails, and snails have schistomiacin, and that is what coats. And I had schistomiacin, and let me tell you, when I started doing these cleanses, my schistomiacin went out, and my bladder that I constantly had issues with because I always had UTIs and it was always endo, right?
Mhm.
Gone. So I found out that freshwater snails carry schistomiacin, and I always went in fresh water. And so I started researching what the French do because they eat a lot of snails. So they say 3 days prior to the full moon, they start to dislodge themselves to create new environments and new communities in your body. And so you should start at 3 days prior. The reason why they say the full moon specifically is because serotonin runs more freely in your body, which gives them a highway. And so they can just hop on the serotonin highway while making you feel bad about yourself. That's why people go a little loco during the full moon, and you have swelling and you have flare ups because they're literally repositioning themselves in your body.
So the
That's
whole
why.
like when there's like crazy people on the highway and we're like, oh, it's a full moon, it's not just a saying. There is like legitimate science with that.
Legitimate science. And there's two, like, so not just starting on the full moon. We do say to start 3 days prior to the full moon because you could get more of them. You're kind of doing a shock and awe attack on them. They don't know it's coming. They do because they're a frequency. So they're alive, they have their own frequency. They're lowering your vibration and your frequency because they don't want you to know they're there. And I've had people open my kit and immediately pass worms and not even take it. Just the smell, just the fact that they know. So I did a documentary with a guy, and he lives in Ecuador, and his wife does not believe in any of this. Well, she does now, but she didn't. And so they have a dog, his wife, a little girl, she's 4, and him. And so I sent them a kit to Ecuador, and they had been talking about it a few days before, and his daughter started itching, and they looked, and there was some white things, and he didn't think anything of it. My kid arrived, they opened it, the dog passed 4 worms and the daughter passed 2, and they had not even taken it.
Oh my
And
gosh.
his wife texted me and said, I think what you're saying is legit. And I'm like, I know what I'm saying is legit.
I think it's legit. I think it's
But they just know they're a frequency. And when you
legit.
start to shift your frequency inside of your body, they're going to know too. And so that's all I did when I created this is I figured out the ailment per herb frequency and I matched it. So it's kind of like an opera singer singing. When she gets her voice to the same frequency as the glass, it shatters the glass. That's
Mm.
what you're doing. And that's all they did with medicine. They just learned the frequency that they can synthetically drive that frequency so they can mass produce it. And then I did the same thing, but with herbs, and your body can actually process herbs. So have
I love that.
frequency.
I love
Yeah.
that analogy. That's because that really hits it. Like, oh yeah, okay. I love it. I want to respect your time. So I have
Oh,
like
yeah.
2 more quick questions.
Yeah.
One of them we kind of touched upon a little bit earlier was So my husband just finished the kit the other day. I didn't realize there were 10 extra binders in there. So he's like, I wonder why I thought it was 30 days already. He's like, did I forget of some days? So he
No.
actually just finished like all 40 days instead.
Nice.
But
Good.
myself, yeah, and he doesn't notice anything huge, which is something I meant to ask earlier. Maybe we can touch upon it afterwards. But I know some people they notice it and they see all the things, and then some are just like, hmm. But the point is that just like you don't notice anything special when you shower or brush your teeth or anything, like you do it because it's healthy for you and it's kind of more preventative as well. But yeah, so that's kind of his theory with it. And he's okay, I'm good. We're going to continue to do it every few months for that full moon week. But myself, I'm a different story. I did it for 2 weeks and then I had to stop because I was in such excruciating stomach pain. And all the symptoms you said, I have the teeth grinding. Both my husband and I have teeth grinding. We wear night guards. I get the bloat at the end of the day. I'm like, certain foods definitely more than others. And then there was another one you mentioned that I was like, oh,
Salt.
shoot, me too. Which one?
Salt.
Yes, like I take, and granted, I'm low carb ketogenic, so I'm not getting sodium from processed foods, but I take so much salt. I am such a saltaholic. So those are three big ones. And I know you've mentioned others when listening to podcasts, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so me. Uh, but like, what happens with some people? Like for myself, my stomach pain, it was very much like an ulcer pain. It would be after I eat, a couple hours after I eat. And I've had this pain in the past when I've investigated, it was like ulcerish, thin stomach lining kind of thing, which I did a whole protocol to fix that. But yeah, so can you dive into that a little bit? Like, what would be the cause of that? Did I do the right thing by stopping for a little bit? Like, what's going on?
I definitely think you did the right thing by stopping. Always pause if there's discomfort. And you can always message us too. We answer every comment, every DM, every email. And as far as your husband, his second cleanse could be the tougher of the cleanses, just
Hmm.
so you know.
Okay, I'll let him
My
know.
first cleanse was rough, but my second cleanse was like, oh, they knew, right? They didn't want to die. Now I'm killing off their young because they've laid eggs on the way out. So now I'm killing off something stronger than they were because they've been all lackadaisical, right? Living in
Yeah.
you. Whatever toxin it is, it's not just because it's worms, but any toxin, like they hide deep into your tissue. And now you've kind of like unpeeled that layer and you're making them know, like, hey, I know you're here. Oregon grapefruit's coming in to attack. Now, for you, and I don't know how much herbs you do, but like I have found that eating marshmallow and taking marshmallow root has helped me gain more access to the less of the pain and gain more access to my stomach being coated. And it's such a crazy concept. I've just recently been diving into this the last few months. And there is a really great grass-fed gelatin. So the marshmallow is made from grass-fed gelatin because the cow, and it's on Amazon and it's got all organic. And I'm eating two in the mornings,
Okay.
just little squares in the mornings. And then I'm taking marshmallow root, and my gut has never been so good.
Oh,
Like
good.
the pain that I used to have, kind of similar to what you're saying, is kind of gone because it's coating my gut. Like
Yeah.
literally going in with it and recoding it.
And I have a supplement I use. It's not cheap, but it does have marshmallow root. It has like mucin, DGL, a lot of the like stomach lining thing. And so when I paused, I knew from my past, like, okay, I'm gonna pause and I'm gonna take that because I take it before bed. So it
Uh-huh.
has the evening to like coat and do all its thing. So that was kind of the other reason I paused because I thought, okay, there's the binder. You're gonna take the binder away from certain supplements.
Yeah.
But I'd say like 2 weeks of doing this, and I mean, I was better like within 3 days of stopping and starting the marshmallow root and all
Oh,
aloe,
good.
like all the stomach lining stuff. But I just was like nervous to restart.
Yeah,
I'll be
totally.
honest.
Maybe just do it once a day. Maybe just try it and see if once a day
Oh,
helps.
oh, that's
Um,
true.
yeah,
Yeah,
because
just go back.
yeah, it's different when it's a tincture, but This is
Yeah.
really great information for people because I don't think that they realize we're so indoctrinated. You know,
Yeah.
like, oh, what do you mean you can switch on and off? And my mom was here for 5 days and she's Western medicine to the T, and I'm getting her all into this as well. And she does really well on my kit. I've said that a few times on this podcast already. She's done really well. And like, I told her today, I said, you can pause things. Like, it's okay. I realize that we've been big peed and told that if you stop this, you're going to get worse. But that's not really the way it is with herbs. You really do need to get in tune with your body and say, oh, 2 weeks, I got to pause this. Let me get the gut lining, back in
Yeah.
check. Let me do all of the herbs to do that. And then you can pivot back and maybe just do it twice a day. Because really, it is just about getting those herbs back into your body, regardless of how, maybe you do a full dropper in the mornings and that's what you do, Jen.
Yeah.
Like that's what, that's called pulse dosing. That's what my husband does to get the herbs in him. So it really is about doing what makes you feel better.
I love that. That's helpful because I know you don't know a whole lot about me, but I also have epilepsy. I've had since I was 12.
Okay.
That's how I started ketogenic was, oh, I hear this helps with epilepsy. No doctor helped me with that. They were like, oh, I don't know anything about it. Um,
Totally.
but I was able to get off of a ton of medication and I still take a very low dose. So that was the other aspect of like just timing
Yeah.
things properly with that prescription. So that's actually really helpful to know that someone can adjust. And we're not taught this with herbs. Like
Right.
we know so much about prescription, conventional medicine, because we know there's websites to look at what contradicts what and all that. But herbs, it's just this unknown like thing for most people that they either
Um,
get scared of it or, and I know myself certain ones I need to stay away from, like St. John's wort. I need to be careful with that one. Um, but yeah, that's where it's like the unknown. And I love that you are making this the known for
yeah.
people so they don't have to fear it and they can say, hey, if I can't do the full dose, a little is better than nothing, or
Yep.
maybe try a different time. So yeah, I'm gonna get back on it and try that one dose a day and then maybe do the pulsing where it's like the full. So you're saying by the full dropper is the full dose of the day at one
Yeah,
point.
like you could just do like that once a
Yeah.
day, like
Okay.
0.75 or zero point 0.5 or because
Yeah.
really this has a lot of herbs. I
Yeah.
mean,
You can
when
tell.
we decided to do it, my husband said, if they want to see worms, I'm going to show them worms. And so when we sat down and I came up with the herbs, and then he's a genius, and he and I sat and he came up with like, how many pounds of herbs are we soaking? And it's not a little bit. We can soak up to 10 pounds of herbs in each tincture. So the way we do it is it's like a big jar, and we literally fill most of that jar with herbs, and then we do Everclear. And so Everclear soaks and pulls all the medicine out in that alcohol way. And then you make another tea. And you can then do more herbs in the tea because each herb has a way to pull out more medicine. And
Okay.
some herbs, it doesn't pull anything out. And
Okay.
that's when you're making a tea, right? That is pulling medicine out of those specific herbs. That's a water soluble herb. And so I research which herbs are water, which herbs are alcohol, and then it's called a double extraction, which herbs are both.
Okay.
And mushrooms are both. So you do alcohol and you do water, and you get all of the medicine out of the plant that way. You don't leave anything behind. Some of the herbs that are not water soluble, we'll pull them out and they'll be crispy, fresh out of the soak because we pulled everything out. There's nothing left
Oh, that's fantastic.
in it. Yeah, it's so cool. And they know this, like they synthetically drive the medicine that we're taking from this. So you can kind of change your habits and get yourself off of certain things. And this is just such an easy way. I followed the way that everybody learned in Western medicine. There's instructions and it's all very structured for you, but it's still Mother Nature's herbs that is telling you what to do.
Yeah. Oh, I've loved this conversation, Kim. This has been awesome getting to know you and hearing your story and hearing your inspiration and how you're helping other women and men. But in my space, it's mostly women, let's be honest. So, yeah, if someone We will have a link for the Parasite Parafy
Yeah.
kit down below. So you guys can go and get that. It is really easy. I will admit I have done another brand. I'll just say it. I've done Cellcore because
Yeah.
I use that with some clients, and it's a lot of pills
A
when
lot
you,
of pills.
and it's expensive.
It
Like it
is.
is legit
And they
expensive. And I've seen people say that they didn't notice anything with it.
and they
But with
just added
yours,
citric acid into their product.
they add citric acid.
They
Is
did.
it definitely the mold version though? I heard that there's different kinds.
I mean, it's nerve-wracking, right? Like, I love Cellcore. I still take their biotoxin binder. It
I
says
like
citric
their
acid,
binder.
but like, I haven't created a new binder yet. Charcoal
Yeah.
is so restrictive. I get it. I get it. I'm trying to come up with another alternative, but I don't know. I guess I'll reach out to them. I've only ever said this 3 times on a podcast because I love Cellcore. I think what they're doing is great.
Mhm.
His purpose is amazing. So, I mean, not all of his products have citric acid, but it is a reason
Okay.
why a lot of practitioners have come to us because we don't have it in ours.
Oh, that's good to know. Yeah, I haven't seen it in the ones I've used. I like them for opening up the lymph, like
Yeah.
we were saying, the drainage aspect, like they have the drainage activator, things like that. So, I love that we're going to be able to use this more in my practice, kind of coupled with certain ones of theirs. You don't have to follow Cellcore to a T of all their kits. They have phase one, phase two, phase three, etc. But using yours and then maybe a little bit of help from
Yeah.
theirs too, if someone's drainage is not open. But yeah, I just love everything you're doing. I love that TikTok gave you this platform to be able to share this with everyone so that they become aware that just because we live in America does not mean
Right.
we're not exposed to parasites. We very much are. And that could be a really easy solution for someone. Just get one kit and start it out, test it out, you know, ask questions. I'm in both of the Facebook groups that you have as well. And there's definitely a lot of information and pictures in there you can learn from.
It's a wild west. Actually, I have hire part-time for Facebook as my
Yeah, it
this for the week because it's wild over there. It's
it is.
wild.
It is so crazy. So why don't you let people know like where they can find you if you have anything you want to offer them. I know you have some ebooks and stuff. Just let them know and we'll put those in the link too or in the description.
Well, I do just want to tell people to give themselves grace and to be patient because healing is a journey and you can heal, especially from these terrible women diseases that we have. Like I'm proof of it. I'm almost 4 years remission, which is amazing. So you can heal. You can find me on Mrs. Rogers Hood on TikTok, mrsrogers.hood on Instagram, rogershood.com on my website. We have free fast track guide, which will walk you through how to do a parasite cleanse and how to open up your drainage pathways. Any cleanse you do, it's the same with all of them. We also have a drainage book, which we outline why you're opening your drainage. So it's like an A and P book for you. We have multiple cookbooks that you can get. These are all free. We also have a 600-page parasite identification book. So if you're
What's the
questioning what's
better?
coming out, you're more than welcome to go look up all. I had like 20,000 pictures over the last 4 years that I've been doing this sent to me. So I picked the best.
Wait, so all of those were actually sent to you?
Yeah, not all of them are from the Parafy, but most of them are from the Parafy kit. Those are all ones that were sent directly to me at one point. That's all I did at night was just siphon through. We have a whole chat on Signal that my team has, and it's called UPO, Unidentified Parasite Object.
That's hilarious. I do really suggest people to look at the ebook that you have with the pictures. I downloaded those and it is wild. Like everybody
Wild.
just thinks of worm and parasite like this little string thing. It's not. There's a whole bunch. And I'm not so we in the beginning of this episode we talked about diggers versus just looking. There
Yeah,
are people that will like
yeah.
dig through their poop and filter, use strainers and wash it down and stuff to find it. You don't need to do that. Base it on how you feel. If you start feeling better, like brain fog, sleep better, all those kind of things, measure those. But I did see on the surface one day, I think I was about a week in, not even, and I was like, what is that? And it was something stringy, and I was like, yeah, there's something there. And I don't know which one it was because I wasn't going to dig, but I knew there was something. So
Oh my God. Well,
it
at
was
one point,
working.
someone said I should get a digging, like I should make a digging kit. I'm like, I just don't have time, but that's a great idea. Like chopsticks, the mask, the goggles, like the strainer, because people are super creative and they're always in my comments telling me how they dig. And we do memes a lot. Like that's kind of my thing. I like to laugh. And so
Yeah,
one of the things was, are you a looker, a flusher, or a digger? And so
I
that's
remember
always
that one.
saving. That's my
Yeah,
saying all the time. I'm like, which one are you? Because I'll know how to approach your situation,
yeah.
knowing which one you are.
No, totally. I remember that meme. I responded. I was like, no way. I'm just the seeker. Just I can't. It yeah, I'm gonna spare people the details of it. I think people can imagine. Like, I just don't want to. Like it was enough having to do the stool test and like
Oh
screw
yeah.
for that. That I'm like, that's enough. I'm doing it once and done. Like, never mind digging every day. But if it's your cup of tea, go for
That's
it.
right.
Like
That's right.
I always
That's
say.
right, man.
So
People just,
awesome.
I think it validates them, and that's cool, man. And that means more pictures for me. So do not feel bad. I love the pictures. Keep them coming. I used to do like Fridays where whoever sent me pictures that week, I would do them on TikTok. But let's be real, it was really gross and I
Yeah.
got in a lot of trouble. So
Mhm. Gosh, I'll definitely look at that sometime. Gosh, that's crazy. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming
yeah,
on
thank
here
you for
and
having me.
spending time sharing, educating my audience. I'm so psyched for them to see this episode. And yeah, if you guys have any questions or any pictures you want to send Kim, go ahead. Links will be in the description. And yeah, I look forward to talking again sometime and seeing your
Thank
new
you for
products come too.
stoked. I'll send them to you when they come out.
Awesome. Thanks. All right. We'll talk to you later.
Okay, bye.